Hey friends, it's me. 95% of startups fail. That's a cold, hard fact. Most of them collapse because of one of two problems: either a cash crunch or because they've completely misread what their customers actually need. The reason why I say this is that it's so easy to find yourself on the wrong side of that statistic. But here's the thing. Survival in business is less about brilliance and more about discipline. So let us talk about the most important things I've learned about how to build something that lasts. So I founded a company called Superhuman a decade ago. With my co-founder, after spending over a decade before that building products at Google and Facebook, we grew Superhuman from an idea to over $100 million in revenue in just a few years. It was crazy. Along the way, we've built multiple successful businesses together. And there are 5 principles that have helped us survive and thrive as an entrepreneur. The first is validate real demand. Startups are high risk by definition. No matter how great your idea is, if no one wants it, it'll die a horrible death. A lot of founders fall into the trap of endlessly iterating on their product without getting real feedback from potential customers. My advice is to get out there and figure out whether people will actually pay for your thing before you scale. This is what we did at Superhuman. We didn't launch a full consumer app. Instead, we launched a landing page asking people to put down their email addresses if they were interested in the product we were building. Within 48 hours, we had over 100,000 signups. This became our North Star as we built the rest of the product. Talk to potential customers. Get some validation before you go all in. No. 2 is operate lean. Startups typically start out with very little cash and have big dreams. The challenge is to make those dreams come true while stretching your resources as far as possible. You want to be able to run your business on a shoestring until you know your business model works. So here's a few ways to do this. First, ruthlessly prioritize spending on things that move the needle on your key metrics. For example, if you're trying to grow an app, spend money on user acquisition, not on fancy office furniture. Second, automate everything you can. You don't need to hire a bunch of people to do things that can be automated. There are plenty of tools out there to help you do it better and faster. And third, outsource what you can't automate. Don't try to do everything in-house. If you have a skill set that is limited, bring in experts to help. As an example, we outsourced our entire customer support function at Superhuman. And finally, keep a close eye on your burn rate. Burn rate is how fast you're spending your cash. It's important to keep track of it so you know how long your runway is. Runway is the length of time your business can operate with the cash it has available. If your burn rate is too high, you won't have enough cash to keep operating. At Superhuman, we always kept a close eye on our burn rate. We knew that we needed to keep it low in order to survive. We did this by carefully tracking our expenses and making sure we were only spending money on things that were absolutely necessary. And that leads us to our next point, which is track hard metrics. The old way of doing business was to kind of wing it and hope for the best. But in today's world, you need to be data-driven in order to succeed. This means tracking the right metrics and using them to make decisions. If you're not tracking the right metrics, you're flying blind. You need to be able to measure things like your unit economics, acquisition cost, churn, and LTV. Unit economics is a fancy way of saying how much money you make on each user or each transaction. Cost is how much it costs you to acquire a user or customer. Churn is how many users or customers you lose over time. And LTV is how much money a user or customer is worth to you over time. By tracking these metrics, you can start to see trends and make changes before it's too late. Let me tell you a story about how this works in practice. When we were running Superhuman, we were seeing a lot of customers churning. This meant that they stopped using our product and we were into making as much money as we expected. First, we didn't think it was a big deal. After all, it's normal to lose a few customers here and there. But then we started digging into the numbers, and we saw that the churn rate was getting worse and worse. It was clear that something was wrong, and we needed to fix it. So we spent some time talking to our customers, and we found out that they were churning because they were unusing our product the way we thought they were. We had assumed that they were using it as a replacement for email, but it turned out that they were using it as a productivity tool alongside email. Once we knew this, we were able to make some changes to our product that fixed the problem. We also started tracking churn more closely so we could catch any issues early. As a result of these changes, our churn rate dropped dramatically and we were able to grow our business. The lesson here is that you need to be constantly tracking your metrics and be willing to make changes based on what you find. If you wait too long, it could be too late. Next up is diversify revenue or funding sources. I know that this sounds boring, but trust me, it's important. When I started Superhuman, I thought I could just build a great product and the money would follow. I couldn't have been more wrong. Building a successful startup is like walking a tightrope. You need to be able to adapt quickly to changes in the market. That means having a plan B. Maybe you have a backup funding source or another revenue stream that can keep you afloat while you focus on growing your core business. Maybe you have savings that you can fall back on if things get tough. Whatever it is, having a safety net can give you the peace of mind to take risks and experiment. I wish I had done this earlier in my career. Having a plan B would have saved me a lot of stress and heartache. So do yourself a favor and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your income streams, diversify your funding sources, and sleep easier at night. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, pivot instantly when conditions change. Starting a business is a roller coaster ride. You never quite know what's going to happen. That's why it's so important to be able to pivot quickly when the market changes. One of the hardest things for founders is to let go of their vision and be willing to change course. But sometimes it's necessary in order to survive. At Superhuman, we had to pivot several times along the way. The early version of the product wasn't resonating with users, so we had to change direction. And that meant letting go of all the work we'd already done and starting over. But it was worth it because we ended up creating a product that people actually wanted to use. The key to pivoting successfully is to be able to kill your babies. This is one of the toughest things about being a founder. You have to be willing to let go of ideas, products, even entire businesses if they're not working. But if you're able to do it quickly and decisively, you'll be able to stay in the game longer. In the end, building a business that lasts is less about brilliance and more about discipline. Every business is different, and there is no one-size-fits-all approach. But the tips I shared today are some of the things that have worked for us. I hope they'll be helpful to you. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below. Thanks for watching.